Hello students, myself Dr. Sucharita Bhattacharya from Guru Nanak Institute of Technology, Kolkata, once again welcoming you all in my lecture series on classical optics for Physics 1. I am delivering the lecture series for first semester BTech course, and the streams under considerations are Computer Science and Engineering, Information Technology and Food Technology. Today I am delivering lecture 3 of my lecture series. Now we are continuing the submodule 2.01 on interference of light of module 2 on classical optics. Today I will deliver the third lecture session, and in my today's session I will discuss today the classification of interference and the Newton's ring phenomenon in detail, including its applications. Though no detailed deductions I will do as per the syllabus. Now, the questions to be addressed in today's session: how do you classify interference? With examples, definitely. Next one is, what is a thin film phenomenon? Actually, Newton's ring is a very famous illustration of a thin film phenomenon. Next, how Newton's rings can be observed in laboratories. How do you explain formation of Newton's rings? Will come after that. What are the special features of Newton's rings? Then we will discuss. And what are the various applications of the phenomenon? Now, two broad methods are usually adopted to produce the coherent sources so far as types of interference or classification of interference are concerned. One is the division of wavefront, other is the division of amplitude. In case of the division of wavefront, the name suggests that the wavefront from a single source is divided into two, either by reflection, refraction, or diffraction, and then they superpose. Here, narrow light sources are used. Most common example is the double slit experiment of Young, where we have seen from S, the incoming wavefronts are divided by the two slits S1 and S2 to produce two set of wavefronts which superpose to produce the final interference fringe pattern. Another example is the biprism experiment, where two halves of a prism divide the incident wavefront coming from S1 and S2 into two parts, and here you are getting the region of superposition where the fringe pattern is produced. In case of the division of amplitude, the amplitude of the incident beam is split up into two parts by either partial reflection or partial refraction, or by both. So here, two or more reflecting surfaces or media are normally used. And here, it is not essential to employ a point or a narrow line source, but broad light sources may be employed to produce the distinct fringes. So you are getting the difference between the two cases. Now, Newton's ring experiment comes under the division of amplitude. It is a very famous example of thin film phenomenon also. What about thin film phenomenon? If a thin film of any transparent substance is absorbed in sunlight, brilliant colors are exhibited. What about the transparent substance forming thin film? Very familiar one to you, like soap film or oil on the surface of water. This type of thin film, if observed in sunlight, brilliant colors are exhibited. Why we are getting this? Because rays of light suffer multiple reflections at the upper and lower surface of the thin film, and color effect is attributed due to the interference of these reflected rays. Let us take a look about the thin film colors. Say this is water and the oil, so you are getting very beautiful color effect in this oil film. Newton's ring phenomenon already I mentioned It is a noteworthy illustration of thin film phenomenon. What is happening here? Let us take a look. A thin air film of progressively increasing thickness from one point in all directions are formed between a plano-convex lens and a plane glass plate, where convex surface is facing the plane glass plate. So the air film possesses a radial symmetry at the point of about the point of contact. Now when it is illuminated normally, preferably by monochromatic light, we used to get the interference fringe pattern in the form of alternate bright and dark rings of decreasing separation, which are localized in the air film and concentric with the point of contact. We will take a look now, and these are called the Newton's ring because Newton examined them for the first time and measured their radii with some precision. That's why these are called the Newton's ring. Now let us take a look at the experimental arrangement of the Newton's ring formation and the ring appearance. This is a sodium vapor lamp. Now we have taken a lens L1 in the focus of which the sodium vapor lamp is placed. Naturally, the parallel beam of light is falling on a plain glass plate G2, which is kept at 45 degrees with the horizontal. Now, rays after partial reflection from here will move vertically downward towards the lens glass plate assembly. Towards this lens glass plate assembly where the air film is trapped, which is wedge-shaped air film. So rays suffer multiple internal reflections and refractions to form the interference fringe pattern, which is concentric rings inside the film. Now transmitted beams which move in the upward direction where now we looked through this microscope M. The transmitted rays will go towards the upward direction, and finally in the microscope, if you take a look, you will find this ring system which is localized inside the film. Now, let us come to the explanation of this formation of Newton's ring. Okay. So for that part, we have considered this diagram, and here we have the glass plate as well as the air film, glass plate as well as the plano-convex lens with convex surface facing the plate. That's why the air film is trapped here. Now, let us start with the incident ray, that is A1, B1. We are considering incident monochromatic light A1, B1, which is falling normally at the upper surface of the air film at B1. Now, there is surface of separation between the lens and the air. Naturally, one part from B1 will be reflected towards B1 and emerge out as B1, D1. The reflection taking place from rarer air medium. Other part at B1 will be refracted along B1, C1, and at C1 it will emerge out as a transmitted beam along C1, T1. But at C1 we are getting that one part is transmitted or refracted along C1, T1. Other part is reflected along C1, B2, which is backed by denser glass plate. Now at B2, one part will emerge out as B2, D2. Other part will be reflected along B2, C2, backed by denser lens. At C2, you will get the transmitted beam C2, T2 and another reflected beam towards upward direction, again backed by denser glass block. That means the process continues and we are getting the set of reflected beams B1, D1 and B2, D2 and set of transmitted beams C1, T1 and C2, T2 starting from the same incident ray, that is A1, B1. That means these are coherent, these are coherent because they are originating from same incident beam, so they will be able to form the interference fringe pattern provided their path difference satisfies the conditions of interference in the form of maxima and minima. Before going to that part, about one thing we have to be very careful. I already mentioned from B1 reflection takes place by optically rarer medium, and from C1 reflection takes place from optically denser medium. Similarly, from B2 reflection takes place from optically denser medium. Now, to have the idea about the path difference and their conditions, we have to take care of two things. First thing is that compared to B1 D1, B2 D2 has traversed an extra optical path of value B1 C1 plus C1 B2 inside the air film. Similarly, compared to C1 T1, C2 T2 has traversed an extra optical path of value C1 B2 plus B2 C2. This is one point. That means one beam is suffering extra optical path compared to other inside the air film. And second factor, as I already mentioned, from B1 reflection takes place from air, from C1 it is takes place from glass, from B2 it is takes place from glass. So these considerations will come to our help to calculate the path difference. Now, Newton's ring, it is formed both in reflected and transmitted systems, as already we mentioned, reflected and transmitted system. And now we will find some special property in the form of complementarity. Now how to get it? To calculate the path difference between reflected rays B1 D1 and B2 D2, already I mentioned, consider extra optical path traversed by B2 D2 inside the air film compared to B1 D1. That is, B2 D2 is more than B1 D1, and that is calculated to be twice mu T, where T is the thickness of the film at the point B2 and mu is the refractive index of the air film under consideration. Similarly, difference of reflection from B1 by optically rarer medium and from C1 by optically denser medium, which according to Stokes' law contributes extra optical path of value lambda by 2 in denser medium case. In denser medium case. Now, to have, if you if you take the contribution from both these factors, the total path difference you will get as twice mu T plus minus lambda by 2. And because of this, if nth order maximum is formed, then what we will get on the right hand side, 2n lambda by 2 plus minus 2n lambda by 2. That means we will get finally the condition for maximum as twice mu T equal to plus minus 2n plus minus 1 lambda by 2. Because this lambda by 2 will be transferred to this side to give you the condition of maximum as twice mu T equal to 2n plus minus 1 lambda by 2 in reflected system. And similarly, the condition for minimum will be twice mu T equal to plus minus 2n lambda by 2. Okay. Now, for transmitted system, C1 T1 and C2 T2 are the beams under consideration. Where already I mentioned that extra optical path is traversed by C2 T2 in air film compared to C1 T1, and this amounts to again twice mu T. Similarly, reflection contribution from surfaces C1 and B2 both follow Stokes' law and comes out to be equal to lambda by 2 plus minus lambda by 2, as both are backed by denser glass plate. So here the condition in terms of path difference will be twice mu T equal to plus minus 2n lambda by 2 as condition of maximum, and twice mu T equal to plus minus 2n plus minus 1 lambda by 2 as condition of minimum, because from Stokes' law consideration, here we are getting both lambda by 2 from C1 and V2, which we got only for once in case of reflected system from C1. So, if you take a look at the two conditions, you will find the two conditions, one for reflected and the other for transmitted system, are just opposite to each other. One's maximum is coinciding with others minimum, and others minimum is coinciding with one's maximum, as if they coincide, but factor is not like that. Why the situation is just like opposite? Now let us take a look. We have already seen that from same incident beam A1, B1, two set of beams, one reflected and other transmitted beam is originating. That means at a particular position in a particular order, if maximum energy is taken out by the reflected beam, naturally at that point, the minimum energy is left for the transmitted beam. Similarly, if minimum energy is taken out by the reflected beam in a particular order at some point, maximum energy is left for the transmitted beam. So, conditions for reflected and transmitted beams are opposite, and fringe pattern will be truly complementary because it is expected as per energy conservation principle. So I think very, very interesting one. You got the idea, and mind it, I am not going in very detail so far as these condition derivations are concerned, but the major contributions I mentioned and the expressions I have given, with highlighting the complementary characteristics of the reflected and transmitted system of Newton's ring phenomenon. Very, very important one. Let us now move to the radius measurement as per the prescription of Newton, obviously. Now, a dark fringe, we are concentrating on reflected light because you can get the transmitted one as a complementary one already mentioned. Now, a dark fringe of order n is the locus of those points where the film thickness is given by film thickness is constant, that is T, where the film thickness is T. From where you will get it? Just take a look. In the reflected system, this is the condition of minimum. So a dark fringe of order n is the locus of those points where film thickness is T, because we know that fringe means locus of points of constant optical path. So here mu is constant, only T is variable. That's why we are considering a dark fringe of order n is the locus of those points where T is constant. Now 2 will cancel out. So what about T? N lambda by twice mu. N lambda by twice mu. Let us take a look. The film thickness is T, and as this T, this is the value of T from 2, N lambda by twice mu. And look here, the contour of the film is curved. Contour of the film is curved. So, not plane these are. So, these fringes of equal width or thickness. Say here you are getting T thickness at B2. Similarly, diametrically opposite point, you will get similar thickness T at some other point. This is two-dimensional view. So, if you consider three dimensions, similarly, you will get some other points having same T. Now, locus of points of constant T. Locus of points of constant T will give you the concentric rings. These are fringes of equal width or constant thickness. I am repeating this statement. A dark fringe of order n is the locus of those points where the film thickness is T, and as the contour of the film is curved, not plane, so these fringes of equal width or constant thickness are concentric rings. Now, what about the ring radius or diameter? For radius of the ring, let us consider this triangle OFB2. that is the right angle triangle, where OB2 is capital R, the radius of curvature of this convex surface of plano-convex lens. What about OF? F is a point which you are getting from B2 by drawing a perpendicular on this radius of curvature, that is OP. If the thickness at B2, that is FP, is T, then obviously FO is R minus T. And what about this FB2? That is radius of the nth ring. That is the radius of the nth ring. So apply Pythagoras theorem. OB2 square equal to OF square plus FB2 square. That means R square equal to R minus T whole square plus Rn square. By simplifying, we will get Rn square equal to twice Rt. So radius of the nth ring is twice Rt. T is the thickness of the film. R is the radius of curvature of the convex surface or of plano-convex lens. Now for nth dark ring in reflected system, what about T value? That means the constant thickness whose locus giving you the rings. What about this value? N lambda by twice mu. So put here Rn square equal to 2R into N lambda by twice mu. What you will find? 2 will cancel out, Rn lambda by mu. That means the radius of the nth dark ring is square root of Rn lambda by mu. So Rn is proportional to square root of n, where n is a natural number. So radius of the nth dark ring in reflected system is proportional to square root of natural number. For nth bright ring in reflected system, what will happen? So this n lambda will be replaced by 2n plus minus 1 lambda by 2. That is from the condition 1. We did use the condition 2 to get it. And here the condition 1, if you use for the bright ring, that is the maximum, you will get Rn equal to square root of capital R into 2n plus minus 1 lambda by twice mu. That means Rn proportional to square root of 2n plus minus 1. So radius of the nth bright ring in reflected system is proportional to square root of odd natural number. Square root of odd natural number. And dn, the diameter of the nth ring is 2 times Rn. So in this case, dn square will be equal to 4n lambda r by mu. 4n lambda r by mu. Lambda is the wavelength of the monochromatic light what you are using. Mu is the refractive index of the film system. Definitely opposite will be the case for transmitted system, because reflected and transmitted system are complementary. Now, let us come to some special characteristics of Newton's ring. What about the separation between the rings? If you consider two inner ring separation, D5 minus D4, that means the fifth ring and fourth ring separation. Already we got the value of the diameter as 2 square root of Rn lambda by mu. Mind it, previously we considered dn square. That's why we got 4n lambda r by mu. You are now taking dn, so it will be 2 and square root will come. Be careful about this point. Okay. Using this formula with 5 and 4, that means r lambda by mu into 5 minus root 4, you will find 0.47 root r lambda by mu. Similarly, if you try with consecutive diameter of rings, but in the outer region, that means D17 minus D16, you will find it will come out as 0.25 root r lambda by mu. So in both cases, we are taking the diameter of two consecutive rings, two inner rings, two outer rings. In case of outer rings, the separation is smaller than the inner rings. So separation between the rings goes on decreasing as we move outward. Take a look. Here, the separation between the rings more, but as you go outward, the separation goes on decreasing. Another part, let us take a look. So these two conditions in reflected system, already we have seen that condition of maximum and condition of minimum in terms of path difference. Now, at the point of contact between the lens and the glass plate, we know T equal to 0. That means ideally there must be perfect contact. So, if you consider both the conditions, you will find the left hand side to be 0. But these are equations. So you have to choose the right hand side out of these two, which one will satisfy the left hand side. Here, just take a look. In the condition of minimum, if you take n equal to 0, definitely this equation will give you 0. It will satisfy the left hand side. But here, for any value of n, you cannot make the right hand side to be 0 because n is an integer. So, central ring for reflected system is dark according to equation 2. Be careful because these two are the conditions for the reflected system we already have seen earlier. At the point of contact, we will get for reflected system the central ring to be dark one because T equal to 0 there. So condition of minimum will be satisfied there. After that, alternate bright and dark rings with decreasing separation is observed, and obviously opposite is the case for transmitted system. That means for transmitted system, this will be the condition of maximum and this will be the minimum. So for transmitted system, at the center, you will get the bright ring. Okay. Now, with white light, central black spot will be surrounded by colored rings of decreasing separation. So central black spot in reflected system will be surrounded by colored rings of decreasing separation. So after few colored rings, there will be uniform illumination. After few colored rings, there will be uniform illumination. For reflected system, another important point to note, overall minimum resultant amplitude. That means R minimum is 0. So, dark rings in reflected system are real dark rings, whereas overall minimum resultant amplitude for transmitted system, T minimum, is not equal to 0, though very small. So definitely contrast for reflected ring system is much better than the contrast for transmitted system. So neutron's rings are most commonly observed in reflected system. The contrast is much poorer in transmitted system because minima, though 0, though very small, but not exactly 0, though R minimum is 0. So these are very special characteristics of neutron rings. I think you all understand. Next, let us move to the applications of neutron ring phenomenon. There are two very important applications of neutron ring phenomenon. One is the determination of wavelength of a given monochromatic source, which you will do in first year lab. And the second one is determination of refractive index of a given liquid. Normally, it is done for the honor students. Now, how to determine the wavelength of a given monochromatic source? For that purpose, this formula we are going to use. What about that? You already are familiar with dn square expression, that is 4n lambda r by mu. That means you can measure the diameter of nth ring with the help of the microscope, about which already I mentioned. So dn square will come out as 4n lambda r by mu. You can measure dn square if r, the radius of curvature, is given to you of the plano-convex lens and you consider the air film, then mu will be equal to 1. Okay. So, dn, what about n? Say you are considering second ring or third ring or fourth ring. Naturally, here n will be that ring. So, r given mu is 1 and lambda you will find out because dn square already measured. Now, if you do dn plus p square, that means another ring's diameter. It is plus p, say it is the sixth ring or the seventh ring diameter. Then what you will find? 4 n plus p lambda r by mu. 4 n plus p lambda r by mu. That means n plus p is say 7 or 6. Okay. Everything remaining same. So that ring's diameter you also determine. So if you take their difference, what you will ultimately find out? 4p lambda r by mu to determine lambda of a given monochromatic source. That means if I sum up, then what to do? You will measure two rings diameter. One, for example, say second ring. One for another, for example, say fifth ring. Two rings diameter you are taking. So what about p here? N plus p minus n. That means 5 minus 2 equal to 3. Okay. R is the radius of curvature of the convex surface of plano-convex lens. It will be supplied to you. And what about mu? The refractive index of the film. Now, if no specific film medium is mentioned, we normally consider mu to be 1. So, from this formula, you can very easily determine lambda, provided R is given, and you can measure two rings diameter. One is any higher order ring, say 5 or 6, other is say 2 or 3, for example. Very easily you can do it. Similarly, there is actually you are going to do it in first year lab after few months. Okay. Now, what about the second application? Determination of refractive index of a given liquid. Now, we can determine the refractive index of a film material provided the diameter we can measure for any two rings. Okay. For example, if you first consider that you are measuring the diameter of say fifth and the second ring in air film, what we can write? 4p lambda r. So d, for example, say d5 square minus d2 square, we can measure using the microscope in air film. Then 4 into p will be 3. Lambda, we don't know, say monochromatic one, and r we also don't know. Okay, r we also don't know, because here lambda and r may be given, may not be given. Please note it carefully. Now, repeat the experiment, but replace the air film by a liquid film. How to do that? Inject a few drops of liquid in the place between in the space between the lens and the glass block. That means air film now will be occupied by the liquid film. Then what about the formula? dn plus p square minus dn square liquid equal to 4p lambda r by mu. Now look here. The same ring's diameter you have measured, but in liquid film. Clear? P is known to you. Mu you will determine. Lambda r may not be known. So how to get it? Take the ratio. It is known to you. It is known to you. These parts actually will cancel out. Mu will go up. Okay. That means by taking the diameter of two rings in air film and then repeating the experiment in liquid film by injecting few drops of liquid in the space between the lens and the glass plate, you can very easily determine the refractive index of the liquid film. Now, last question which remains, whether the ring system will remain exactly same in air film as well as in liquid film. Definitely, ring pattern will come out roughly same, but there is a little bit important changes you will expect. Rings are found to be contracted in the liquid film in the ratio of 1 by square root of mu, because you just take a look, diameter square is inversely proportional to 1 by mu. That means diameter will be inversely proportional to 1 by square root of mu. So, mu for any material medium more than 1, naturally, the rings are found to be contracted in the ratio of 1 by square root of new. Here, the problems may come as well as questions may be asked that what about the ring system in liquid film. Okay, so I hope you understand and enjoyed lot of things I discussed regarding the Newton's ring. Very important phenomenon, and in your chapter it is a very important topic. Okay, so thank you my dear students. I hope you all enjoyed it. So stay safe and stay healthy.